Good evening, good morning. Whenever you're listening to this, welcome back to the Late Night Vision Show. It is episode 321. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for coming back. About to introduce my co-host here in just a second, but if you didn't see last week's show, episode 320, it is the zeroing thermals, the biggest myth. There was a lot of people that commented to that video. A lot of people watched, responded. Some good tricks and tips in there that you need to go check out in the comments that Jason and I thought were really good ideas as well. And I'll go ahead and announce him since I've already said his name. Jason Robertson, owner of Outdoor Legacy. Hey, good evening, man. How's it going?
Good evening. What's going on?
Yeah, we got a good show today. Yeah,
We
looking
do.
forward to it.
This is going to be, this is summer and there's less reviews this time of year. So it's kind of funny. We have seasons of reviews. Like there's time periods where people are kind of like, man, I mean, like you guys, but I've already got my thermal scope and I'm not going to buy another one. And it's just review after review after review. And then we get into times where guys are like, hey man, any new scopes out there? Any reviews?
Yeah.
Y'all are just
Yeah.
talking about other hunting stuff and scopes and, topics like this. And so it is kind of seasons. And we still have a couple scopes that, again, we keep mentioning that we're trying to get footage and stuff out of right now. But this is kind of the season of topic shows where hopefully we answer some of your questions. We try to talk about things that hopefully will help you with the thermal that you've already got, or maybe if you're looking to buy one, help you then. So we are definitely in a stretch of shows, again, talking about topics and things. But guys, if you got anything you want to hear about, leave a comment, send us an email, do something, just say, hey, this is something I'd love to hear y'all talk about in the show. I mean, if you just ask the question, we might try to answer it in the comments. But if you say, hey, I'd like to hear y'all talk about this in the show, leave it. We're always looking for new ideas.
This is the time of year that you and I stress out, and when we really have to work because we have to come up with all this show content and all these show notes and plan it out and do all this. During review season, it's easy. It's like, okay, we're reviewing this scope, this scope, this scope. But this time of year, you and I both stress out. You probably stress out a little bit more than I do, but yeah, we are this week. I'm going to tell you what we're talking about before we do. If you're looking to purchase a night vision or thermal optic, you can do so very easily at outdoorlegacygear.com. Or if you're like most people, you want to talk about it. If you need help deciding on which optic to get, there's so many choices out there. You can call and talk to one of us directly, 877-350-1818. We'd be glad to take your call. And I think somebody left a comment recently. They're like, I called and talked to Hans. Yes, they actually do call you. So we do. And we'd love to talk to you and help you make that decision. 877-350-1818, outdoorlegacygear.com. So this week, episode 321, we are going to be talking about the top thermal trends of 2024. People want to know all the time, hey, what do you see as far as coming out? Any new technology, new features? What do I need to hold on and wait for something? And there's been a lot of, I don't want to say under the radar developments, Jason, but there's been some things that have kind of just been quietly stuffed into scopes. I don't want to say, it's probably a bad word, stuffed into scopes. But things that we're seeing, features that we're seeing, or accessories that are starting to be like, part of the package, included into the package.
I would say to you is that, and I think I know what you're trying to say. It's not that they showed up overnight. It's just actually that they have become so gradual that you start to look up and you go, oh, wow, this is becoming commonplace. This is now not that big of a thing. We've got a list of 5 things here that we just kind of talked about and came up with things that we are seeing becoming, again, a trend of just kind of standard features that are on more and more and more scopes. Doesn't mean every single optic is going to have it, but it's just becoming more common over time. And it's really, these are all good things. Nothing about this is negative. This is all good improvements.
Good things. And it's not things that you're paying extra for. There's some people that call in, and rightfully so. There's a lot of people out there that maybe, I don't want to say a lot, but there's people out there that don't want video and audio recording, and they want to know if there's an option to purchase a model without it. And really, there's not that many choices. Very, very rarely can you get a thermal optic without video and audio recording. But the good thing is you're not paying extra for it. You're not going to find a model, get a model that's cheaper because it doesn't have that feature in it. And even if it has a feature, that you aren't interested in, that doesn't mean you have to use it. So these are just, you and I talk about it all the time. People, with this, video, I keep going back to video and auto recording or Wi-Fi and all these app features.
Right.
If trying to find a model without it's like trying to find a truck without automatic windows or something like that.
Air conditioning, FM
or air
radio.
conditioning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just part of, becoming standard components and good features. These are a lot of very popular features that people do like. And, I think that it does show that the manufacturers are listening to consumers and they're starting to just put these features in. Now, when I talked about, being stuffed in there and almost kind of being overnight, the first one that I'm going to bring up, the first topic or the first trend, thermal's trend for 2024, ballistics calculators. Now,
This happened quick.
It
Quicker than everything else. Yeah.
One brand in particular, Pulsar, they came out with their ballistics calculator app, a separate app that communicates with the scope, which is kind of a cool design where you're putting your information in the app, you link it to the scope, it saves it in the scope, and then you don't have to keep going back to the app. It just links up and then saves it in there. But, they did it on their laser rangefinder models, on the Thermions. So it was like, okay, that's cool. The laser rangefinders. And it was I don't want to say a slower rollout, but it was by model. They started out with one model and they kind of rolled it to the next. But these were only the laser rangefinder models. And now they included the ballistics calculators in all the Thermions, right? In all the newer Thermions, this current model Thermion. So, even if it has a laser rangefinder or not. So, that seemed very quick when they went from the laser rangefinder. Really, and it's like, okay, every scope, every Thermion, current model Thermion has it. iRay, USA Infrared Outdoor have ballistics calculator now included in a few of their models as well. So it does seem there's a lot of people that call in and they say, if you talk about laser rangefinders, and we'll get to that, but laser rangefinders is getting to be very important and very popular to a lot of people. But first thing they want to know after they talk about the laser rangefinder, they'll say, well, does it adjust your reticle for the distance? And so you get to hear that more and more, and it's good that these companies like Pulsar and Infrared Outdoor, and I imagine more companies are going to, develop that and get on board with that. But, that they brought that in and just kind of rolled it out. It really, and hearing a lot of good feedback from our testing and from customers on the accuracy of this thing as well. It's not just, it's one thing to put an accessory or a feature in there and it just kind of be duct taped together and not good, because there are some companies in the past that have tried that, not any of the ones that we're working with or we talk about, but the ones that we see here recently has been very, very good, very accurate. And I do like I like this type of technology if it works. You know what I mean, Jason? Like, it's one thing to be like,
it needs to work, and it needs to be fairly easy. And, I will tell you now, these ballistic apps and the calculators, I think it's easy if you understand ballistics and you're already a long range shooter and you're used to that sort of thing. Now I'm going to raise my hand over here and say, that's not me. So it's not easy for me. I've played with these apps. I've played with the Pulsar ballistic app. I've messed with, the Infrared Outdoor stuff. It's over my pay grade because I'm not a ballistics guy. Don't be honest, care one thing about it. Does it? So it starts asking me all these questions that all you serious shooters know. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm out here just killing stuff.
Yeah.
So, but that's always, I joke, but there's some truth to this. If you get in there trying to set these things up and you don't understand it, you probably don't need to be using the ballistic calculator like me. I don't need to be done because I don't need to be shooting that far. But I think for the guys that can do it, that's really easy. We don't, guys that are long range shooters already that know all their ballistics, their data, they're not calling us. They're like, yeah, I got it. And they figure it out in 5 minutes and then they're going on down the road. So I do like that. I like that. It's easy if you have that kind of experience. So I want to move on to the next one. This is a slow trend. This is a trend that has started or has taken shape, I would say, really over about the last 6 to 7, 8 years. but it's really, I think, accelerated in the last 2 or 3. And I think for 2024, it's kind of obvious that it's going to be here to stay. And that's higher base magnifications on thermals. And, if we think back to probably one of the most popular thermal scopes ever on the market. I mean, at its time, it was the pinnacle of popular thermal scopes, and that was the Pulsar Trail XP50. The original Trail came out in 2017, which, it's funny to me, 2017 doesn't sound that long ago,
Yeah,
but when you're like,
exactly.
yeah, that's like 7, 8 years now. But
Yeah.
so that scope was a 1.5 power. It was a
Mm-hmm.
1.5 power base magnification. And I mean, guys, coyote hunters were buying this scope. It was the
Mm-hmm.
number one scope with coyote and hog hunters. And it was a 1.5 power 640. And then I remember when the first Thermion XP50 came out, and it was a 2 power,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a little bit of pushback. Oh man, that may be a little more than we need. I don't know about that. Oh gosh, so. And actually, I'm saying that about the XP. Was it a 1.6? Is that actually what they called it? And I
Yeah,
think it was,
it was
it was
the
a
original was 1.6. Yeah.
1.6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And then you
think
had the
that's
XP, the
yeah.
XP38 was like a 1.2.
1.2, yeah.
Yeah.
So I called it a 1.5, 1.6 if we're going to be very specific. So the XP50 Thermion was a 2. I was like, oh man, this is. And then we just kind of saw this trend with, really, Infrared Outdoor was that when they really hit the market, they had a lot of 3 power optics. And anyway, there's a lot of other brands. Everybody kind of started inching towards this 3 power at one time, and that kind of became the base for I don't want to say most, but many optics. There's no question that at one point there were way more 1.5 and 2 power optics. A 3 power was considered a high magnification. At this point where we're at today in 2024, we're just looking at Outdoor Legacy
Mm-hmm.
Gear, our website, outdoorlegacygear.com. We're sitting there going over the scopes, and it just was striking, like, just to see them in list, like three
Mm-hmm.
power, 3 power, 3 power, 3. There is by far more 3 power scopes on the market today than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing now more 4 powers,
Yeah.
a couple 3.5 powers.
Right.
So now I want to be clear. I'm going to say that this is a trend. It is here. I think it is overall a good thing, but I want to
Mm-hmm.
make a few disclaimers, and then we'll kind of move on. One, I don't think the trend, I think the trend needs to stop where we're at. We do not need 3 power to inch into 3.5 or 4 power.
Right.
I do think we need some 3.5 and 4 power scopes. I think 4 power is about it. Top it out right there. And again, there's still most guys don't need that. Only a few select type of guys, hunters need 4 power. 3 power is a really good sweet spot, maintaining a good field of view. At the same time, I don't think we need to do away with our 1.5 and 2 power optics completely. Those scopes need to stay. We need those options. Personally, as a hog hunter, mostly, I don't want a 3 power scope. I still want a 2 power. I don't even really want a 2.5 power. I want the 2. I want the wide field of view. Again, I'm spotting, I'm stalking, I'm getting up close. There's some guys that we talk to that are literally hunting in the woods. They're hunting in tight quarters or brush. 2 power is almost too much for them. I mean, a 1.5 is actually better
Mm-hmm.
for them. So I'm just making the point that there's no question. I think 3 power fits more people,
Right.
even hog hunters. So I think that's a great, like, middle of the road.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to see some 4 powers, and I do want to
Yeah.
see some 2 powers.
So you and I have kind of, I guess, had a little bit of a change of taste, a little bit,
Sure.
or a progression of this. Me more than you. You're like, okay, 1.6 was perfect, and you're like, okay, I'm okay with 2. 2's perfect. I'm more. I do like 3 power as a base
Right.
magnification. And it's not that I'm taking more shots or longer shots than you are. You and I mean, 90% of my shooting is done under 100 yards, and
Yeah.
it has a lot to do with what we're doing and where we're doing it. The conditions here in East Texas are like a forest, and there's a lot of guys that call in, and they're typically a lot on the East Coast, or they're like, man, I know in Texas y'all got wide open spaces. Well, certain parts of Texas, the certain parts of Texas, like here in East Texas, is just like what you would find a lot in Alabama, Mississippi, and Maryland, and those that type of places. But yeah, I do like 3-power. Do a lot of coyote hunting. Do a lot of hog hunting. So, you're right though. I think where you don't want to go to 4-power or 4.5. There's some guys out there that are like, oh man, in my daytime scope, I'm shooting a 6-power, and that's what I like. But night hunting is so much different, more different than using that 6-power daytime optic. And you're also using a set of binoculars to spot with, and with a 6-power scope you want to take a very tight first shot on a deer. But at night you need a little bit more scanning availability with a little bit wider field of view. But anyway, I do agree, higher magnifications, thumbs up, good thing, love to see it. I would definitely like to see some more options in that $2,000 to $4,000 price range of 3-power stuff, as well as the 640s. So let's get on to the next one. It kind of goes and falls in line with our first topic, and that is the third of our trends. It is laser rangefinders. Now, laser rangefinder, I think everybody is familiar with. We talked about the difference in the statometric rangefinders a couple weeks ago, that come in basically all the scopes now. Are pretty much all of them. Statometric rangefinder, very different than a laser rangefinder. And it's good to see now that there's more trends. And I think you said it, Jason. I think there's going to be a time when it's going to be, easier to find a scope with a laser rangefinder than to find one without it. I think we're getting to a point where it's going to be one of those accessories that at some point, I don't think it's going to be this year or next year, but where it's going to be a standard feature with all these scopes is some type of laser rangefinders. Now, right now, you do have some companies that have them, fixed and permanently attached, like the Pulsar LRFs. You've got Infrared Outdoor that has kind of a mix. They've got a couple with them built in. They've got a couple with them where you can add the laser rangefinder and mount it and Bluetooth it, or plug it into the optic itself. You've got Rix, kind of the same way. You've got AGM that has the fixed laser rangefinder with the varmints. So you're seeing more models. I think you're seeing an introduction to more models, but we do believe down the road at some point, again, it's going to be something where it's going to be like video and audio recording or Wi-Fi. It's just going to be a standard component. And I think that's a good thing, because so many people right now are trying to decide, do I need to just get an optic without a laser rangefinder, or spend a little bit more and get an optic with a laser rangefinder? And when you're trying to decide based on price, sometimes people are not choosing the right option, just because they're trying to hit a certain budget, and understandably so. But there's some people out there that need a laser rangefinder that aren't buying one because of the budget concerns. And there's people out there that don't need a laser rangefinder and are probably buying one just because they want it on there. And that's 100% okay. It's, if you had the choice to have it or not, it's always good to have it. Doesn't mean that you need it, but it's always nice to have. But glad to see, Jason, that laser rangefinders are getting to be one of those standard components, and look forward possibly to one of the days of it's just part of it. I mean, that would definitely be nice. Whether you need it or not, it's like video recording. Whether you need it or not, it's nice to know that you have it and it's there. Yeah.
Well, and when you're not paying extra for it. And so right now, I think that's the point we kind of need to make, is that depending on the model, you're going to spend $500 to $1,000 more to get a laser rangefinder.
Right.
And even like the add-on laser rangefinders for the infrared bolts or the Rix Leaps. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're still talking about $500 to $800 to get one of those laser rangefinders, Bluetooth, and add it on.
Right.
So I do think as that price gets smaller and smaller, and again, it gets cheaper, and they're including them more. I agree with everything you just said. The one thing I want to make a quick comment on, and I know that it's not the favorite of everybody, it is the fact that there's a lot of these optics with removable laser rangefinder or an add-on. And I'll be the first to say, yes, I mean, having something permanently attached to the side, it can't move, it can't get bumped, whatever. Okay, that sounds better, and we all like that. But I just want to say that the trend for the removable or the add on is actually very positive. And here's why I say that, because what it is, what it's always been in the past is okay, I didn't need a laser rangefinder, or I couldn't afford, or didn't want to spend, or whatever. So I got a scope without it. Now I really want and need a laser rangefinder. What do I have to do? Well,
Right.
I got to get rid of this scope. I got to go lose money selling it
Yeah.
used. Then I got to go buy another one.
Yeah.
So for so as from our perspective, if you just want to say it's all about money, well, hey, and if you got to go buy a new scope, I get to sell you a whole nother scope. But
Yeah.
here with the add-on, I just get to sell you the laser rangefinder for five, six, seven, eight
Oh
hundred
yeah.
dollars, and that's
Yeah.
that's way cheaper for you as the end user. And here's the other thing: what I do like is now there's less optics. You don't have to say, well, we got this one over here with the laser rangefinder. We got this one without it, and it's identical. That's just more optics. It's
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
confusion. But if you say, hey, I want a scope, I don't know about a laser rangefinder, but I may get one next week, next year. What I'll worry about it later because I can add it on. Boom, you buy it, then you get to decide later. So anyway, I just want to make the comment that I do like the option of being able to add it on. I do think it adds simplicity from the buying standpoint. And again, I know there's a lot of people don't like the idea that it can be taken off or on, and I get that, but I do think there's some pros there. So moving
Yeah.
on,
Absolutely.
this one right here, I think this is a big one, and I think it is it seems in some ways very slow, this gradual move away, but then in other ways I'm thinking like it did kind of like the end came quick.
Right.
And that is the move away from CR123A batteries, which if you're not familiar, they're little small batteries about as big around as your finger and probably an inch long, inch and a half, that are lithium, and they're expensive. They've always been expensive. This was the number one most common way to power thermal optics for years. I mean, just as far as I can remember, this was the number one battery option. The reason being, these little batteries, for what you could get, were long lasting. They lasted way better than a double A battery, and they weren't near as big as a C or a D battery or something, another alkaline type battery, because these again were lithium, but they were expensive, and they used to be $1.50, $1.75 a piece. A lot of flashlights use them. Well, as inflation and everything else has gone on, those batteries now, good quality ones, can be 250, sometimes $3. And I'm talking about buying bulk. I'm not talking about buying them at the grocery store. You could pay $5, $6, $7, $8 a piece for them there, but buying bulk, online, you're still looking at spending $2 or $3 a piece. And most of the scopes used two batteries. So you're talking about, even in the cheap days of $1.50 a piece, you're talking about $3. Now you can be talking about $5 to $6 for every single, runtime on those batteries. And they're disposable. You're pulling them out, throwing them away. They do make rechargeables. They don't last as long. So you get a lot of pulling those out and recharging, and just a lot of a hassle there. So, what we saw going back to, again, kind of go back to these Pulsar Trail models in 2017, that's when Pulsar shocked the world and had a fully removable, rechargeable, very long lasting battery on the side of those trails. And people ate it up because they weren't having to buy these little CR123As. And so, anyway, with that said, we've definitely seen the market move away from these batteries. Now there's more and more optics with 18650s, 18500s, which is another battery. There's been a couple weird other generics, but a lot of internal batteries that are inside the scope that you can't take out, that you recharge. Or we're seeing, again, I wouldn't say maybe, I don't know, maybe it is more, but a lot of optics like that, or batteries like that the Pulsar Trails had. There's the fully removable rechargeable battery. AGM moved to that in their Rattler V2s. And so I understand, again, there's pros and cons to everything. A guy goes, well, I don't want a battery that's inside the scope that I can't get. Or a guy says, I don't want a proprietary battery, period. Sure. And I understand those concerns, but I will tell you, the concerns with these CR123As were greater because they're terrible in the cold. The runtime on just an average scope would be anywhere from 2 to 3.5 hours in warm conditions. You get in really cold conditions, and I mean, guys were having to run off of an external battery pack because those little CRs just would not work in the cold.
Yep.
So I'm making a long roundabout here to say we're definitely seeing the market move away. I can't think of right now any of the top manufacturers that we deal with that are still using CR123As in current or new models. It happened that the final nail in the coffin was pretty quick. Again, it started back 6, 7, 8 years ago, but it is moved away now, and I think it's been a good thing. And I can tell you, I can probably count the number of guys on one hand that have said they were upset that the CR123 batteries are going away. There's guys that are just like, they've owned those scopes and they're like, hallelujah, give me a battery, a proprietary battery that lasts 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. I don't care if it costs $100. I can run through that many CRs in no time.
It got to be a negative if a scope ran off CR123 batteries. And you can see the success of the AGM Rattler version 2s, the V2s that now have come with 2 battery packs, and they moved away from the CR123s, and people that are selling their old Rattlers, getting rid of their old Rattlers, buying the version 2, or now are open to buying the Rattler that maybe weren't open to buying it before. So definitely a good move. We definitely happy about that. Now, okay, the last top thermal trend of 2024 is going to be the QD mount being included in with the purchase of the optic. Now, we got to give credit where credit's
from the
due.
manufacturer is what we're talking about here.
Yeah, we got to give credit where credit's due. And AGM really almost probably from day one, it seems like, probably wouldn't, but it's close to it. They were giving away an American Defense Manufacturing mount with all of their optics. I can't think of anything that didn't come with an ADM mount, but a very high quality, quick release mount that's so important to so many people. Being able to get that feature, and a QD mount, if you don't know, is a scope mount that allows you to take the optic on and off the rifle. You sight it in once, you can take it on and off the rifle without having to re-sight it in. That's what's called QD mount, or quick detach mount. And there are many companies that make them. If you've watched this show quite a bit, you know that we like the American Defense Manufacturing brand. They make mounts for just about every company and almost every optic that the companies make. They're a good company to work with, and they make a very good quality product. So the quick release mounts, with AGM really starting that off and showing that, hey, we're going to include this in. We're going to raise the bar when it comes to value of purchase. And these mounts are not inexpensive at all. So they did it, infrared outdoor. They were going with some infrared. They were going with some ADM mounts, and then they've kind of switched over to their own in-house. They're manufacturing them themselves. RICS the same way. A lot of these companies now are starting to include a good quality QD mount when you purchase the optic from an optic from a dealer. And again, these are free QD mounts from the manufacturer, right out of the box comes with it. So that is, again, a good trend. And what you can see with the 5 trends, y'all, that we have talked about, Jason, is there anything on this list other than maybe the laser rangefinders right now that is adding price or adding dollars to the overall price of the optic? I can't think of anything.
No, the prices are going down.
They're going down.
If you want to talk about the other thermal trend, there's the trend. That should be number one. Prices are dropping. There's no argument there at all. So we're talking about, there's 1024 resolution optics on the market that cost less than some 640 scopes on the market today.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I'm telling you that the prices are going down. You're right. I mean, sometimes yeah, you pay more for an LRF, but those prices are coming down. So no, all this is just getting better for the consumer.
So the value is going up. The prices are coming down. I want to recap again the 5 trends and there's probably more. These are the ones that kind of stuck out to us and that we hear about the most and what people call in and talk about that is important to them. And, the reason why it's important for us to take note of this and to kind of memorialize it on a video, we don't just do this stuff for, well, we do. We don't just do it for the audience and the listeners out there that are buying the optics and night hunting. We also want the manufacturers to see this too, because we want to try to nudge the manufacturers for you into what you call about and what you want. And trust me, y'all, the manufacturers watch this show and they have a pulse of what the customer wants. And this is a direct line from them to you, is for them to see it on this show and say, okay, this is important. So again, ballistics calculators, starting to be a big trend, higher magnifications, laser rangefinders, moving away from CR123 batteries and quick release mounts being included in from the manufacturer at the time of purchase. These are great features that are not adding a lot of price to the overall cost. And like Jason said, the costs are coming down. So
all right,
good,
guys.
Good time to be alive. All right,
we'll do this again. Yeah, we'll do this again in a year or two, and these things will probably be cooking you supper. And no, all this will be old news. It'll be like, what do you mean you bought a scope that doesn't come with a laser rangefinder and a ballistic calculator and a free QD mount? And yeah,
I think a couple years ago, didn't I talk about a scope that would basically turn into a drone and come off your rifle and like go out?
You might have. That's probably next. That's
locate
probably
the hogs or the coyotes for you. So.
There you go.
Hey, I think maybe some of these companies can get with some of these drone companies and make it happen.
There you go. All right, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed this. So listen, if you're looking for more content like this, right here, The Late Night Vision Show. You can go to thelatenightvision.show.com, see all the past episodes. But if you're already on YouTube, you're here, man. Just look and you can see there's again 300 and something episodes. I don't expect you to go watch them all, but you may scroll through there, find something that interests you. I would definitely say if you're doing that, it's probably best to stay with stuff that we've done in the last 50 episodes, the last year or so. Sometimes people will watch things that are really old and, technology has changed or scopes have changed. So it's best to kind of stay within the last year or so. But we hope you enjoy the content, man. You can always subscribe, and then you will hopefully be notified or see our stuff popping up in your YouTube feed. If you're looking for more stuff from Outdoor Legacy, you can go to outdoorlegacygear.com. That's Gear, outdoorlegacygear.com, or you can find us on YouTube, all the social medias, and Hans. If you want to see more of his stuff, you can go to HANSETX, Hans East Texas, YouTube, and all the social medias, and you can see all his content and his shorter reviews and all the stuff that he's got out there as well.
Yep. Well, we appreciate y'all joining again. This has been episode 321, Top Thermal Trends of 2024. Next week, we've said it before, we don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be amazing and awesome. You're not going to want to miss episode 322, but we do have some reviews that we're going to be getting to, a couple of reviews that we're just preparing for and prepping for right now. Anyway, y'all, it is the dog days of summer, but we appreciate y'all joining us. We will see y'all soon next week, this Thursday, and every Thursday right here, The Late Night Vision Show.